Hi everyone, this is Jason Cirillo from the JSOM Career Management Center, and this video is going to give you some ideas on how to talk to recruiters and hiring managers and anyone else that you might interact with at the career fair. Now, this will apply to both virtual and the in-person career fair. And one thing that we hear quite a bit regarding the any kind of career fair, any kind of employer event, is I don't have any experience, so I'm not going to go. And that is a very uh, misguided way of thinking. What you have to remember is that when recruiters and hiring managers come here to meet with you, they know they are meeting with a student. They know that they are meeting with individuals that don't have a lot of experience or don't have any experience. And so the idea that you don't want to go because you don't have any experience is kind of a silly idea because they already know that you don't have any experience and they don't expect it. What they do expect is someone who is passionate about learning, someone who's excited, someone who can explain why they chose their degree, what they want to do with their career, or at least some ideas of what they're interested in. And they want to learn about your UTD story and kind of what you're doing right now. So, the first thing that you should always remember about any kind of employer event is that you don't have to have experience. And that means whether you're a freshman who's just starting this semester, or you are a master's student who is restarting their career from something different, you can still go to these hiring events and have good conversations and learn quite a bit. So, we talk a lot about this when we are discussing the topic of introductions. It's called the elevator pitch. And the elevator pitch is based on the idea that you could be in an elevator with an individual, let's say a CEO or a president or something of a company that you want to work for. And you're in that elevator and you've got 30 or 60 seconds before you reach your floor and the door opens and that person walks away forever. So in other words, you got 30 to 60 seconds to basically pitch yourself and everything that you have to offer. Basically, convince them to hire you in that time, in that amount of time. So that's where the idea of the elevator pitch comes from. So how do you handle it in the space of a career fair, whether it be virtual or in person? These are some things to think about when you are when you're trying to formulate this. um, what experience do you have right now that includes any type of things that if you're like you're a freshman, you're coming right out of high school, what types of things were you involved in high school? Did you ever work a part-time job? Even if you were like a babysitter or you worked in retail, you worked at Walmart or Target or you worked at Whataburger, even if those experiences are all you have, or you've done volunteer work, something like that, you still learned very relevant skills that are transferable to anything you decide to go into, right? You've learned about teamwork and you've learned how to communicate. You've learned how to work with maybe different levels of leadership. You've learned how to do a little bit of project management, working in a fast paced environment, resolving conflict. There's all sorts of skills that you already bring to the table. And I think that sometimes students tend to downplay those things when in reality, employers are coming here because they look for those types of things in addition to other things as well. So talk about the experiences that you do have and talk about them confidently. Also be able to answer why you chose your degree. Why did you choose finance or supply chain or human resources? And be able to have a strong reason for that. It's okay if you don't know exactly what you want to do with it, but at least have a plan and be able to communicate a plan, that you are going to figure that out, right? You never want to approach a conversation like this and say something like, "Well, I got this. I'm choosing this degree, but I don't really know what I'm going to do with it." That's not the right approach, right? It's okay that you don't know, but have a plan and be able to communicate that you have a plan to figure things out. Okay. A person with a plan is someone that shows great leadership. All right. So, what are you excited about learning? What classes are you taking right now? You're a student. Remember, it's okay to be a student. Talk about the things you're excited about learning, you're passionate about learning. What do you see yourself doing in the future? And again, it's okay if you don't know what you want to do in the future, but you can give some sort of ideas. Maybe you want to be able to work in, technical teams solving problems, or maybe one day you could see yourself sitting as an HR executive, trying to figure out how to improve turnover rates. Um, there's different ideas, of course, of where you see yourself in the future, and it's okay to be able to communicate some of those. Again, what you don't want to say is, "I don't really know," and that's it, right? It's okay to not know. Okay to say, I don't know where exactly I want to be, but here are some ideas that I've had, right? Have a plan. That's always important, to have a plan. Now, think about what skills that you have right now that make you a good fit for whatever they're looking for. Okay. Now, you can go on to Handshake when you sign up for the virtual career fair or the in-person career fair, and you can actually see what employers are looking for, and you can see, what jobs they're hiring for and things like that. And you can start to get an idea of the types of skills that you have right now that are already aligned with what they're looking for. So, be able to communicate that in your elevator pitch as well. And if you have examples of things that you've done, if you can include metrics in that, that's great as well. So you keep this to 30 to 60 seconds, right? And you're starting off with just a simple, "Hi, I'm Jason, and I'm currently in the human resources undergraduate program here, and I'm going to graduate in May of 2025. And here's the rest of my story," right? Again, 30 to 60 seconds. It doesn't need to be complicated. And you don't want it to sound robotic, meaning it's okay to rehearse it. It's okay to think about it. It's okay to write it down, but you want it to really sound natural. Okay. And you want it to sound relevant, meaning that your pitch may change depending on who you're talking to. If you know one company is really interested in, let's say, your leadership skills, then you may shape your elevator pitch to focus a little bit more on your leadership. And another company may be focused more on, let's say, they're really big on volunteering and you have some volunteering experience. And so, therefore, your pitch would be shaped differently when you deliver it to them. It would be kind of focused a little bit more on your volunteer work and what you've learned from that. So this is how your elevator pitch can change depending on who you're talking to. But what's most important is that you have answers to these types of questions. And these types of questions involve your story. So in other words, you have to know your story well enough to be able to communicate it to the people that are asking you about it, recruiters and hiring managers. So these are the types of questions that you may be asked. Of course, these are just general questions, and they can vary depending on the company. You always want to be able to answer that question, "Tell me about yourself," right? You'll answer that with the elevator pitch. Walk me through your resume. Be able to go through your resume, not necessarily line by line, but just do some very quick highlights. Remember, when you are having a conversation, your resume sort of takes a back seat because they're listening more to you and they're not so much focused on your resume. They'll pick up little details here and there from your resume, but they're listening to you. That's the whole purpose of a career fair, is to meet you and to learn about the story from you. If they didn't want to do that, then they would just take your resume and you'd never meet them, right? So they may ask you questions like, "What do you want to do in the future?" Again, it's okay to not know what you want to do, but have a plan, be able to communicate that you have a plan to figure it out. They may ask you about wanting to stay in Dallas. Do you want to leave Dallas? Do you want to relocate? Do you want to go to different parts of the world? They might ask you about projects you've worked on, maybe what your favorite classes are, what you've learned in your previous experiences. And also too, they'll ask you when you can start, when you'd be available to start. Some companies have very structured internship programs. Other ones have flexible ones, and so these are some of the questions that may come up. And again, it can vary, and you have to be confident. It's okay to not have the answers to every single one of these, but be confident when you are answering your questions. And if you really don't know the answer to one, just let them know that it's something that you haven't thought through yet and that you have a plan to figure it out, right? Always communicate that you have a plan. These are some examples of questions that you can ask to a recruiter or a hiring manager. You can talk about things, ask about things like the company culture, asking about what a typical day is like in this position itself, or if this is a new position, or if it was a position that was held by someone else previously, what made them successful, right? What are some things that you could start to work on today that would help you become more aligned with something like this in the future, right? Maybe you don't have all the skills. Maybe you've learned that from your discussion that you don't have all the skills that they're looking for, and that's okay. That's your opportunity to ask them, okay, I want to work in this job one day. So how can I start to build my skills today so the next time we have a conversation, I'm going to be qualified to do this? So ask them about application windows, how you can better make your resume stand out. Although having a conversation with them and meeting them face to face is a fantastic way in itself of having your resume stand out. You can ask about dates for the internship program. You know, does it just run from the summer? Does it run all year? You know, what kind of plan would you need to make for your own academic schedule if you were to get something like this? Um, some of you might be more ready to start earlier than what they're able to offer. So, as an example, their summer internship may start in the summer, but you might be eligible in the fall or in the spring. So let them know that and ask them, is it possible that an adjustment can be made? Right? Some companies can do that depending on the flexibility of their programs. Um, you can ask about the option of this turning into a full-time job. A lot of companies have plans to turn their internships into full-time offers, so it's okay to ask that question right off the bat. You can also ask questions about benefits and things like that. It's okay that these questions are completely acceptable from students, because remember, employers are there not only to learn about you, but they're also there to sell their opportunities to students. They're there because they want to meet the students and convince you that their company is a great one to work for. So they do want to tell you about the great things about working there, including benefits and things like that. So you've had this great conversation. Remember that at the career fair, when you're in person, you can't take up a lot of time. Okay. There's usually a big line behind you if it's a popular company. And so you don't have a ton of time to ask all these questions. So you have to, this is why you have to use Handshake to research the companies and plan ahead the things that you want to be able to ask when you're in person. So how do you end the conversation? Well, you've been talking for just a couple of minutes and you are ready to end the conversation and walk away. Don't be awkward about it. Don't be weird. Don't overthink it. You can simply say something like, "Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you. It's been great chatting. Would you mind if we connected on LinkedIn?" Right? Sometimes they're cool with that. Sometimes they're not, but you can always ask. You can also ask them if they have a business card. Some recruiters carry business cards. Some recruiters don't. You can always ask for one. You can also include your own business card if you have one. However, a lot of business cards get lost during career fairs. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you from my own experience, at the end of the career fair, when you're leaving, look at the floor. Oftentimes you see dropped business cards everywhere. Business cards, I think, are becoming a little less popular at career fairs because it's all about the resume. It's all about handing them your resume. As a matter of fact, some companies even do a digital registration instead of taking your resume. They might look at it as they're talking to you, but instead of keeping it, they may have you fill out a digital registration form with your contact information, and then send you something later so that you can upload your resume into the system. It's just a way to save paper and reduce mess. But what if you're not a fit? What if you end the conversation, and through that conversation you realize, this is just, it's not a good fit, or I'm not qualified right now, or they're not hiring freshmen, or whatever. Say something like, I understand I'm not a fit right now, but I'd really like to keep in touch for opportunities in the future. Can we connect on LinkedIn? Right? Always try to maintain that relationship, even if you didn't get anything out of it right then and there, as in, they can't hire you, or they're not interested in hiring you, or whatever. You can always turn that into a positive interaction and let them know that you'd like to keep in touch for the future. So these are just some ideas on how to talk to recruiters and hiring managers at the career fairs, whether it be in person or virtual. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to please go. Doesn't matter what experiences you bring. If you have zero experience or you have a lot of experience, please go, learn, have conversations, be confident, and have a great time.